Hello and welcome to this presentation of the 2020 James Tait Black Drama Prize, usually held at the Traverse Theatre in Edinburgh amid the buzz of the festival. But for obvious reasons, we're not there this year, and I'll be speaking to all our nominees at home, as well as announcing the winner, who will receive a cheque for £10,000. Let me start by telling you a bit more about the prize. The James Tait Black Prizes are Britain's oldest book prizes, founded in 1919. They're awarded by the oldest centre for English literature in the world at the University of Edinburgh. The university launched the Drama Prize in 2012, when the awards for biography and fiction were extended to include a new category celebrating playwriting. The prize celebrates bold playwriting and is awarded to the best new play with an original voice, written in English, Scots or Gaelic, and it's open to any new work by playwrights from any country and at any stage in their career. Previous winners include Claire Barron's Dance Nation, Tanika Gupta's Lions and Tigers, David Ireland's Cypress Avenue. Like the Book Awards, the Drama Prize is unique in the way it's judged, by emerging artists and established professionals rather than critics. Each year, university postgrad playwriting and theatre studies students read all the submitted entries to nominate works for the longlist. The shortlist of the final 3 plays is decided on by a guest panel of professional theatre makers and academics from the university. And this award wouldn't be possible without the university's partnerships with Playwrights Studio Scotland and the Traverse Theatre. This year's shortlisted plays are Blank by Alice Birch, co-produced by Donmar Warehouse and Clean Break; Juve by Yasmine Joseph, produced by Theatre 503; and 7 Methods of Killing Kylie Jenner by Jasmine Lee-Jones, produced by Royal Court Theatre with support from Jerwood Arts. Juve by Yasmine Joseph, produced by Theatre 503, is set on the streets of Notting Hill among the history and vibrancy of its famous carnival. The play is a reflection of the Black British experience, told through the story of 2 best friends battling to preserve tradition in a society where women's bodies are frequently under threat. Hello, Yasmin.
Hi, how are you?
Lovely to see you.
Lovely to see you too.
Tell us a wee bit more about the play and how it came to be written.
The play came from, I did an internship in New York. And when I moved there, I was living in Brooklyn and it was really far from home. And on the first night of my move in there, it was their annual it's similar, their equivalent to Carnival, which is the Labor Day parade. So I could hear the music outside. And it was just really interesting to me that, like, hearing soca music and knowing that I was close to the Caribbean people, I'd found home really quickly, and just knowing those were the clear signifiers of home for me. So whilst I was kind of really anxious beforehand, hearing that music made me go out and explore. And I went out on my own, had an amazing time. And then the next day, I told one of my colleagues where I'd been, and they were like, you have to be really careful. It can get quite dangerous. And finding that really odd, because that was a space that feels like it's designed for me to slot directly into and feel completely at home and at ease. And then a year later, I learned of a woman called Tiara Poyal, who'd been shot and killed for declining the advances of a man who was trying to dance with her at Juve celebrations. So Juve is in the Caribbean. It's kind of like the activation of Carnival, and that's how I've treated it in my play. So it's a space where people are covered in oil and powder, and it's really performative, but there's like an anonymity that you can sink into. And I was really interested in looking at that, but also looking at the hypervisibility of women in these spaces, and them being the people who are the purveyors of Carnival, who continue the tradition, who, revolutionize it, but also how our bodies are treated in that space. And looking at that really locally. So looking at Notting Hill Carnival specifically, and that through the lens of 2 British Caribbean women.
Your play has been described as complex and a celebration of the identity and collective power of women of colour in the UK today. Was that message of empowerment important to you, Yasmin?
Yeah, it was massively important because I think what was in my mind at the beginning of writing the play was actually not needing other people to legitimize my experiences or the experiences of people around me or people like me. And knowing that there are things that we enjoy and that we take as a given, but we don't ever get to investigate or explore in this way and on this platform, and not taking that platform lightly. Like, I know that this is a space that matters so much to so many people, and wanting to do it justice was a big thing for me. And I think a big part of that also was about knowing that stories like mine and stories like my friends' stories are enough. And there was an interesting thing whilst making the play about how do my characters speak? How do they move through this world? And actually, I was really comfortable in knowing that I didn't need to change it. I didn't need to over-explain. There was going to be an audience that would understand it off the bat. And there would be some experiences that might not be within someone's range of kind of cultural reference. It might go over their head, but there'll be human truth that they'll understand, and that will be universal. So for me, it felt like it was fine for it to be local in how it was placed, but global in its ambitions, and to put young Black women and a young Indian woman at the heart of that story felt really important, because they were unaware of their power. And I guess throughout the journey of the play, they were kind of trying to step into it.
Award-winning playwright Alice Birch's production of Blank is a mosaic of 60 unrelated scenes telling the stories of adults and children caught up in the criminal justice system. Readers and performers can choose as many or as few scenes in order to construct their own narratives. Alice joins me now. Hi, Alice.
Hi. Hello.
But perhaps you can explain a bit more about how the play works and what it's about.
Sure. It's actually 100 scenes, and it's 50 are to be performed by children or young people, so sort of 18 and under, and 50 to be performed by adult women. And it was a co-commission initially between Clean Break Theatre Company and National Theatre Connections. And Clean Break plays are normally for women who have been in some contact with the criminal justice system. And Connections plays are for young people. And so the fact that it was a co-commission for these two different companies with quite different but quite specific needs felt like it required a kind of formal invention. So it took me quite a long time to come up with what the play then ended up being. As soon as you're talking about women in the criminal justice system, you're often talking about children, because you're talking about mothers and who've often had to, as soon as you send a woman to prison, quite often you leave a child without their mother. And the fact that, so this seemed to kind of offer some kind of formal offering, I suppose, in the play, or a kind of architecture. I felt that scenes in which women could be there but children weren't, and then scenes in which the children were but there are no adults present, felt like it offered quite a lot of different dramatic ideas. But I should say, I mean, some scenes are a line of stage directions, and then there's one scene that's about 45 minutes or 50 minutes long. So there's a real range. Yeah.
So it changes every time you see it, because the readers and the performers choose different narratives. So it must give you some surprising results.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm a real control freak. So each scene has at least one sort of twins or sister scene, I suppose. Like narratively, each scene has to have a link to, in terms of the rules I set myself when I was writing it. There's a link to at least one other scene, so that no scene should feel kind of isolated or like it doesn't belong within that world. And there are lots of things that are open or up for grabs, so character names and places and things like that, so that you should be able to create a narrative play if you want to, with characters that have story, or you could do something quite kaleidoscopic and unconnected.
And do you think theatre can offer us some hope for the future in these grim times?
I hope so. Yeah, I really hope so. I miss it terribly. I think all of us do, you know, and you know, there's time to think about formally like what it means and what it can do and how it might change. But I also just miss what it has been and what it is, and you know, feel very nostalgic for it.
Seven Methods of Killing Kylie Jenner by Jasmine Lee-Jones explores cultural appropriation, queerness, friendship, and the ownership of Black bodies. The play's two characters, Cleo and Cara, debate the role of influencer Kylie Jenner. The play has already won several awards, including the Stage Debut Award for Best Writer, the Evening Standard and Critics Circle Most Promising Playwright Awards. Welcome, Jasmine. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. Perhaps you can start by just telling us a little more about the play. I gave a rough outline there.
Yeah, I think that was a really brilliant outline. If I were to add anything, I'd also say it's also about the personal dynamics of female friendship in particular, and growing with, just like growing up. And I think also about, also more specifically about growing up in London as a young Black woman, not directly like, actually it is discussed in the play, but I think that specific experience, we hear like a lot about when people say the Black experience, a lot of the time people are talking about Black Americans. And I think that's something that is discussed, including the way they speak, because it's like slang intermingled with very academic terms. So I think that's also a component of the play, the fact that they've grown up in London, and how it's affected their lives, and how the experience of being British, and specifically from London, refracts the experience of Blackness, and what they've grown up experiencing.
Has there been a frustration that up till now these kind of stories haven't really been told?
When you say up till now, do you mean last year?
Probably in the light of Black Lives Matter,
Okay.
for example.
It's interesting because I have definitely been frustrated. I mean, I kind of, with this time round, because the Black Lives Matter movement is obviously nothing new. And I've been calling it a resurgence, or like a re-looking, because this play was literally last year, almost a year before this resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement. I don't share the frustrations in terms of my play, because I felt like, because of the location, like loads of reasons, not just the play itself, the location, type of thing, I felt like I was in one type of zeitgeist and now we're in another type of zeitgeist. But I do, I'm definitely frustrated. I think the frustrations I share are more like, why are we listening now? Is it because of lockdown? And I have questions about that. But yeah, I guess that would be my answer.
This is your first play, Jasmine, and already, as you mentioned, it had a great reception, won a few major awards. What difference has that made to you in your career as a playwright?
Well, I wrote plays, so I guess I was a playwright, and you're a writer before anyone tells you are, but I wasn't writing professionally. I was actually at drama school. I just left drama school this time last year, and the play had just finished this time last year, but it's allowed me to write professionally, so now that's sort of my job, and I also act, but it's allowed me really that sort of recognition, and this opportunity has allowed me to hopefully be on the path, and not hopefully, but be on the path to tell other stories that are important to me, and through a different lens than perhaps I've seen before and other people have seen before. So it's really that, which is a pleasure. I was working on a project a few weeks ago and I was just like, I can't believe I get to do this as my job. So that's been the greatest gift, I think.
Yasmine Joseph, I am delighted to tell you that you are this year's winner of the James Tait Black Prize for Drama and a cheque for £10,000. Congratulations.
Are you serious? Oh,
I'm serious.
what? Oh my God. Are you serious? Oh my God.
I'm not kidding.
Are you serious? Oh my God. 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 That's really, thank you very much. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. I mean, can you put into words what this means to you and how you're feeling?
Sorry, I need to take a second. This is the weirdest thing doing this on camera. I think this category, Jasmine Lee-Jones's play was a force of nature. It was like an earth-shaking play. And Blank and Alice Birch in particular, it was like after watching Blank, I had to be mopped up by the stranger that was sitting beside me. So I think both of those plays were such transformative experiences for me. And they're such incredible writers, particularly like Alice Birch has been a hero of mine for a long period of time. And there are so many periods of time where like her work has found me exactly when I needed it. So to even be categorized with those women was beyond, and I was so grateful. So this is next level, and I'm so chuffed and thankful to Theatre 503 because it was a really remarkable thing to, I don't know, think about this big play and how the hell we could get it to sit in a theatre above a pub with 63 seats. And they supported me throughout the entire process. And my director, Rebecca Morrell, also supported me, just pouring as much love into it as possible and pouring so much of ourselves into it. And it was a tricky play to do and to put on. We had loads of kind of freakish acts of nature that happened around the actual performance itself, but the play itself stood, and we were so grateful to make so many people happy. And now what feels like a long time out from doing the play, I'm really grateful for this continuous outpouring of love. I guess it's not, the recognition is incredible, but it's as much about the legacy of your work being something that continues and doesn't just exist for a moment. I want this to be at least one way of looking at Carnival, at least one way of looking at our experience, and for it to be a staple that we kind of revisit and look at with fresh eyes. And I feel like this is another way of breathing life into it. And I'm incredibly grateful, and my mind is blown.
Well, like you, the people who are judging this prize, many of them are emerging artists themselves at the beginning of their careers. What message would you give to them at the moment? Because obviously this is a difficult time for theatre, for all of us.
Yeah, I think to actually really have faith in your stories and to cut yourself a bit of slack as well. I've had a difficult time, I think, also particularly for writers. We have the one job that can be done at home, and because of that there's this expectation that you kind of sit in a room with the right light and it will just fall out in front of you, and that has not been happening under any circumstances. And I think sometimes the best work comes from you allowing yourself to just live and experience and breathe and step away from it and then come back to it. So I would say yes, where possible, if you can, try and instill a little bit of discipline and give yourself the space to at least be present through the ideas when they arrive. But also cut yourself some slack because we are living through a pandemic. But your stories are important, and theatre itself is just about a bunch of people being interested in new ways to look at the world and gathering in a way that we don't have to. We can be entertained by television, we can go anywhere, but we choose to have this shared human experience. And I feel like no amount of cuts or, like precarious footing for the industry will take away from our impulse to want to experience art in that way. So it will always exist. It might not be easy, but we've just got to keep pushing and telling those stories because we need them.